but it doesn't quite go like that, right? They get kind of cocky with their lead, they start pushing up, but the enemy jungler comes and ganks them and gets the shutdowns, gets fed off of them, and then it's real sad, right?
That's definitely how I'm losing games, 100%.
Yeah. It doesn't mean you have to default over to them and just like sack your game sitting there with them. Because remember, it's not just go, it's ping or go. It's okay to move off. Sometimes you should at least communicate it. If you communicate it and they still end, it is what it is. But right now you're not doing that. I wanna take a look at another game real quick just to see like what other kinds of problems are coming up and like whether these are consistent. So
this game, I don't even remember what just happened in this game. I think this is pretty. I feel like this is the same theme. I think my bot lane gets ahead early, and I just don't play around them, and then Fiddle does a better job of doing that, and
we
throw
kiting right there. See, slow cancel, but it's okay. Jeez. Kind of awkward kite timing
in the middle of an auto. Yeah.
You can see one of those Q autos right there.
Yeah.
A little bit awkward on this. God, I'm like trying to stay centered on you and it just keeps moving it off. Okay. While you're clearing this, you should be F-keying top, should be F-keying mid, just to see the lane states. You know Fiddle started... Wait. Oh no, you don't know where Fiddle started. Okay, a little sloppy on the wolf pole.
This game gets real bad real quick.
Let me see what you did level 1, 2.
Vengeance is at
I would have actually gone... I rarely ward the enemy buff directly. I usually do a defensive ward as well, but because you're versus Fiddle, who often like doesn't get leashed, he often starts with some kind of double camp. I would have just warded the buff directly, because otherwise it's a bit hard to tell where he's coming from, right?
Gotcha.
So I would have just warded this thing. Okay, so let's see here. Right.
Oh, you know what happens? Our top lane trolls this game.
Oh, yeah, okay. He was a Yorick main, so I kind of expect that. It takes a certain type of player to main a champion that just runs down a lane like never moving from it. You know, no hate to Yorick players, but
yeah, he legit AFKs for like 5 minutes and then sells all of his items.
Gotcha.
And I don't even really know why.
Let's see if there's anything.
I think I misplay. I might misplay a gank at some point.
Yeah. What I want to take a look at is what causes that state to happen, right?
Right.
Because he didn't start the game trolling, so I want to see like was it something preventable on your part that led to him being in that spot where he. I'd open with an auto Q and just fight back.
Yeah.
Missed an auto there. Okay. Kind of low.
Yeah, because our Callista and Nico get pretty far ahead. And then, I don't know, this game just gets really, really weird.
Definitely should be cutting this out.
Yeah, I've only ever practiced it on blue side, so I'm not 100% confident on like the ranges.
In the practice tool, you can set towers to not deal damage or like not shoot. You can disable towers.
Okay.
To practice red side. I don't practice red side because I'm always red team. Like 95% of my games. So in my practice tool appears I do blue side, and then naturally in game I get red side experience. Okay, should definitely be F-keying over to these lanes before you go in on this. Okay, so you saw this here. You saw that vision plant, right? So I want you to notice two things. Number one, you could have known where Fiddle started if you used your ward better. You could have known he was pathing towards bot side.
Yep.
Number two, he actually revealed himself and hit this plant, and I don't think you pinged it off.
No.
Like.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yep.
Yeah, right here. Just for starters, I would have been pinging both side lanes regardless, starting from like the 300 timer or so. Fiddle usually does like a slightly longer clear. Usually doesn't 3 camp, but starting from like 300 or so, it starts getting pretty dangerous for both lanes because they're going so aggressively, right? if you're not 100% sure, just do like a few question mark pings. If you're 100% sure that they're like gonna die, do back pings. But there should be some communication going on here, right? As soon as you see this guy right here, you know Fiddle's here. Question mark ping, question mark ping, question mark ping, question mark ping, right?
Yep.
You need to keep your bot lane alive. Okay. As soon as you come here and see this scuttle, you need to be lighting this side of the map up. Like, you need to be pinging so much that it doesn't let you ping anymore, right? With straight back pings. Because Fiddle is right here.
Right.
You know he's not here, he's right here. You need to let them know.
Yeah.
I think even before, right here, when you're passing here, this is when you need to be lighting the bot lane up with pings, because at this point you know Fiddle's not here.
Right.
And maybe he's on the scuttle, maybe, but if he's on this spot scuttle, your bot's dead, and it's fucked, right? So maybe if they feel they're really strong, they might ignore your pings, and that might be fine, but you still need to at least communicate it, because from this point, there's only one place Fiddle can make an impact. He's not top, your mid's pretty much full HP pushed in, your bot's way up, right? So anytime you don't know where the enemy jungler is, number one, that's on you. You should be tracking it. So you do what you can. You go, okay, I don't know where he is. Is there anywhere that's damaging if he is there? And right now there's only one spot on the map, so it needs to be pinged out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because once you get to higher rank, it's like, again, like if the enemy jungler is pinging you out, pinging your ganks out, it makes your life a lot harder, right? You can't get the ganks off that you want to, and you're not pinging him out, it's not going to work out well. Okay, so it looks like it was a 2 for 2, but pretty preventable. Do note that you should be tabbing, checking his CS. 26 means he only took 5 camps, so he either skipped Gromp or he skipped Krugs. Wait, do you know how to CS count?
I don't.
Okay, so each camp is worth 4 CS. So a full clear is 24 CS. Scuttle Crab on top of that is 28 CS, right? Just plus 4 interval.
Gotcha.
So anytime the enemy jungler shows up, you just press tab, and that tells you roughly his path. So for example, if he showed up at 230 in the lane, and he had 12 CS, you know he took 3 camps. You can look at what buff he did. Probably did like multiple Gromp, something like that. You know, just tells you his pathing, and that also tells you his rough respawns, right? Because his respawns are roughly linked to yours. Do you know your own rough respawn timers without needing the hourglasses? Like,
it's like. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
It's like 2 minutes per camp or something, right?
Right. So what's your Gromp respawn timer? Roughly.
So. Yeah, I have to do the math. I don't have them like. So okay, I guess the answer is no.
That's a little problematic because that's one of those really obvious ones, right? Like you start the game the same way each time, so this is the most... It's a bit understandable to lose track later in the game when there's so much going on, but this is static, this happens every game, so you should have these timers ingrained. Gromp respawn's going to be around the 4 to 410 region, and then everything else comes up linearly after that, right? Because this is at like 130, you get a leash, maybe you kill it at 140 to 145 region, then you kill this at the 2 to 210 region, depending on your jungler, right? So it respawns 2 minutes later. That also means same thing for Fiddle, because he's mirrored with you. Generally speaking, the first small camp respawn will be in that 4 to 410 region, and then the next camp will come up right after that. So, for example, if Fiddle stays here too long, you see him rotate back into his jungle. At this timer, you could be thinking
his Gromp's coming back up, soon. Right?
Yeah, just something to be thinking about.
Makes sense.
I'd say you should potentially just be dead here. Did she waste Charm?
She charmed him. Yep.
Okay. That's fine. If she like flashed here and charmed you, that might have been dangerous. Especially if this is a Syndra, you're dead here. If you come in like this, Syndra's the big offender, because if you come in at this angle and she has her stuff up, she just
ease you. Yeah.
So do be a bit careful. Eing right away there instead of going back is understandable because there's no room, right? She's too close to tower. So a flash blow here is appropriate. You're not really expecting a kill. She flashed late, so it looks like you get it anyways, which is good. So here, the immediate E is appropriate even though she has a flash. But if she's further in the lane and you have a nice flank angle, that's when you E later and you go for the juke.
Ooh. I went full brain dead here. This is panic.
Okay, happens. Don't worry.
I was like, do I need to kill Ahri? And then I was like, because I don't have any aggro, and then I just fucking went.
Yeah, at least there was a right
execution. Yeah.
Let's see when the actual timers came up here. So yours is up, looks like 405. You expect his to be up a bit later because he either has no leash or a weak top lane leash. So right, his is like 415. Right. Yours was like 405. Roughly in that timer. Because the thing is, like, it's not enough to follow the golden hourglasses. Like, laning, it's really obvious, right? Every 30 seconds, the next wave comes, you play around that for your roams, for your back timers. If a laner doesn't know that the waves are coming every 30 seconds, that's pretty damaging, no?
Right.
For junglers, same thing. If you're pathing based on the yellow respawn timers, you're pathing reactively when you're supposed to have the timer and be able to path with that in mind, right?
Right, yep.
So for example, let me see here. You should actually know your rough wolf respawn timer. You should know your rough raptors respawn timer. And potentially, if, for example, you wanted to heavily focus bot side, let's say this wave was different. It's pushing in this way, so it's just kind of fine. But let's say bot was a bit different. Let's say there was a fight, bot, enemy side blue flash, and their wave is now pushing in a bit, right? It'd be kind of nice to hover this bot side, but it's like slow pushing from this side, so it's not here immediately yet. It's going to be here in the future within 1 or 2 waves. Then, for example, it'd be nice to play the bot side, so it might be good to go to like Raptors, Wolves, Gromp into bot, something like that, if you knew your Raptor timer in advance while you were still in base, right? That might be an option, rather than default. Wolf start, it's always a little awkward to start the inner camps if the outer camps are up. That's because for sequencing, it's a bit awkward, because now from Wolves you go to Gromp or to Raptors, right? So you have to kind of double back. This is acceptable if you want to be immediately proximal to like mid lane and you know that you're pathing out to the side lane, right? So let's say all 4 of your camps are up and you come to this Raptor camp because you know top is getting pushed in slowly and there may be dive potential onto your top laner within, say, 40 seconds. So you don't want to be there right away, but you want to path over there. So you go to Raptor start, into Krugs, into here, right? But if you're not in a scenario where you have an actual reason to be starting on an inner camp, you usually don't want to, because it's obviously more efficient to start on an outer camp, right? Then you can path linearly.
Right.
And then after these 2 camps, you'll be central on the map. Or for example, if you compare Raptors Krugs versus Krugs Raptors, Raptors Krugs leaves you isolated, stranded on the side of the map. There better be something up here for you. Whereas Krugs Raptors leaves you central, you can go anywhere. So if this was a default to taking this wolf, I don't like it.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been my default.
Okay. So what was your thinking here? Like taking dragon or something?
I don't remember what this this game was.
That happens.
I feel like it was played a bot because Kalista just got a double.
So what I
don't know that is for fact.
What I want to point out here is that junglers generally go to the opposite side after they die or reset, right? So Fiddle went from top to bot, he reset / died, so he most likely goes top, right? Unless it's like a really extended thing. So let's talk about conditions in which it would have been appropriate to go Wolves first into Gromp. Because Wolves into Gromp means you want to hover down to your bot immediately, right? So where would that be appropriate? Number 1, this wave is pushing in significantly, and if you go Wolves into Gromp, you can kind of blast over, get a quick gank off while the lane's here, right? Number 2, this lane's pushing out, just like it is, just like this wave state, and your bot lane has to push in to crash it, right? And they have no, like, you want to keep them safe. So if you're expecting like a Fiddle gank, and you want to make sure your bot doesn't die, you can Wolves into Gromp because it kind of hovers this area, right? So if Fiddle shows up, you can come counter. What I want to point out is there's no way Fiddle's here, right?
Right.
he died, he's resetting to the original side that he started on. If he's a Giga Brain or really stupid, then maybe yeah, you can reset that.
Right.
That
So
happens.
this elo,
Right.
at this elo, could be anything, right?
Right, that does happen.
Yeah. Right.
But general expectation is like he when did he die? Or when did he back rather? So he got disappeared around here, so you kind of expect he's backing. Maybe taking Krugs, but he didn't show on this, so probably backing. You can kind of hear him backing actually. So right, 4-minute mark, his bot side's kind of down. He knows his top side's coming up and it's going to spawn linearly top to bot, right? So most likely, natural jungler instinct, go to this side. So
Right.
you actually know at this timer that when you're resetting here, and I'm assuming what actually happened was you didn't even see this wave, and you weren't even considering the wave.
No, I probably just looked at position.
Right,
on
exactly,
minimap.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's why I like looking at a VOD first and then like a replay second, because I can like break down the situation in the replay and like explain it conceptually. But I'm assuming in most cases it's because you didn't even look in the first place.
Yep.
So number one, that should be fixed. Look at the waves. Hecarim's clearing is very easy. You don't even have to look. You can press literally W and Q off cooldown without even looking at the screen, right?
Right. Yeah.
You don't need to be looking most of the time. So number one, actually see this, and then evaluate this wave state. This should be done around this point, or maybe even earlier, because you were a laner up until the season, right? So you know roughly how waves work and how they're gonna So evaluate it early, and that tells you where's the lane going to be in 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 seconds. Obviously, it's not 100% rate. Things go differently, but you still want to set up the expectation and then constantly
Yeah,
update
especially
the
even
expectation.
in this situation, you know exactly what's going to happen because it's not like Ezreal has a ton of wave clear.
Right.
He's not going to jam that wave in.
Okay.
I pretty much only played Ezreal for like multiple seasons.
Right. So you should know this is pushing this way. So
I just don't use the info that
if
I
you
actually
can
know.
beeline here right away, like before this wave actually, this wave cashes out once the blue wave dies, right? So for example, if you're like Giga Braining it, you know the enemy that died, they're running back to lane, and you know they have no flashes. You can sometimes skip all your camps, come right back out and gank on this timer, right? Before the wave.
I'd have to be there now, basically.
Right, you have to be there now.
Yeah.
Whereas, based on the own path that you choose, you're going to be proximal at different points, and that's going to represent different things, right? So because this is pushing in, with the path that you chose, Wolves into Gromp, you're going to be coming when it's around here, right? So that either means, are you strong enough and are they low enough to dive based on the champions? If so, not bad, you can dive this right away. If you're on a champion that prioritizes dragons, not bad, because by the time you Wolves into Gromp, you can come take this because you have bot prio, right? Although mid prio is also obviously important, and whether your top has TP, that's also important for this. So that heavily factors into, do you go Wolves here first, do you go Gromp here first, do you go right away to bot, or do you even go to Raptors, right? Because the tempo, your path decides where you're proximal to at each point in your clear, and you should know where you want to be proximal to based on where the lanes are, where they're projected to be, where the objectives are, where the enemy jungler is, right?
Right. Yep.
So at this timer, it doesn't make too much sense to Wolves into Gromp here, unless you were planning to beeline for this dragon, which I'm assuming wasn't quite your thinking. But that would be like the correct.
We're not gonna talk about what comes next.
Oh, okay. Also, I want to point out here that if Yorick dies and rage quits, it's your fault, because you should know Fiddle mirrored to topside. And again, look at this state. Even if you don't know where Fiddle is, there's actually only one spot that's in danger, because your bot's pushed in, full HP, mid's not even here, top is way pushed in. So even if you don't know where Fiddle is, you needed to be pinging in this area, but you should actually know he's in this area to boot. So if Yorick dies here and he rage quits, you have to treat this as the trolling was because of you. There was something you could have done to prevent it. Obviously, he's a jerk off, like fuck him, but you know.
But you still have potential to control the outcome. Yeah.
Right, like this. Okay, so it looks like this didn't result in anything, but it just as easily could have, right? If he decided to go on this Wukong and Fiddle blasted over or something. this. Okay. If you're going for a dive, don't even clear that ward because you're on a tempo based on the wave.
You just gotta do it, yeah.
Right, because Ahri disappeared. If you committed, just go. I won't say this is the best dive in the world. It's actually not it's not a bad one to consider, right? Your bot lane's ahead. You're in an okay spot, level 5. You have your CDR boots. This guy's kind of low. It is kind of difficult to dive in Nautilus.
Yeah, no, the dive was never the plan. It's just me.
It was right next to you, so you went for it, right?
Really fucking dumb. Just wait and watch.
But yeah, if you do want to go for the dive, just commit fast. Whatever you do, don't hesitate. Hesitation makes any decision wrong. Makes any decision fail, no matter how good it is. But right, this wave is small at this point. It's a bit difficult. Oh, actually, you went on this. That's fine. Wouldn't have wasted E though. Be a bit more careful with that.
Yeah. So this is where, yeah, I got.
Yeah, because the thing is here, they knew you were here, right? Because you cleared this ward out.
Yeah. So what I was thinking, I was like, the wave's crashing. My bot lane's got nothing to do. If I invade this, they just follow, and we win whatever fight that happens.
Okay. So my question is.
But I didn't communicate any of that.
Exactly. Exactly. Because let's say your bot lane's mindset here, they're not thinking you're going for the Skrugs. They think you're coming in for the dive. So they're not setting up to follow you. They're setting up to follow you on the dive.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And
that was my mentality, and then I was just like, okay. So this may be the catalyst of York being like, this jungler's a fucking idiot.
Yeah. Very potentially.
Because he obviously just got pushed off, potentially killing Wukong. Because he was low when that happened, yeah, and then it basically just looks like I int here.
Also the E usage, like if you were intending, you know you're still deep in enemy territory, right? Like they're ahead, but it's not like the end of the world. You definitely shouldn't have.
Right.
And Nautilus disappearing here, and this wave is gone, so it doesn't even make sense for your bot to be. Basically, even if your bot came, this is kind of dicey if like Ahri collapses, if Fiddle's here. It's like an unnecessary risk for a Krugs camp. And notice that like, yeah, it'd be taking away a camp, but you have camps up. It's not even like that crazy.
The risk reward's not,
yeah. Yeah, and realistically speaking, Dragon would probably have been a better answer here if you wanted to like punish based off this. Okay, so kind of into bot lane's lead.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So you know Fiddle was bot. 2-0 now, kind of tough. I'd be pinging in this area because the places he could be are probably. Oh yeah, he was waiting in the bush. So again, this is another situation, could have gone worse because he's still in the area. Just don't assume your teammates. I know sometimes it's like so fucking obvious, and your team's like, they just took Dragon, and you're like, okay, the enemy jungler's obviously there, and your team goes in and they die, and it's like, what the fuck? Like how stupid do you have to be? But
their mind somewhere else. Yeah.
Right, but you also just have to look at it as like, there's a lot of things going on in the game. It's not an easy game.
Right.
Like, imagine you're playing with like IRL friends that are just not that great at the game. You have to tell them a little bit what to do. You're playing in like silver, right?
Gold, yeah.
Yeah, gold silver. That's the assumption. They're not doing things perfectly, and there's also a lot of things laners have to focus on that you don't. You're kind of AFK clearing camps. It's like you have a lot of time to think about things, and you have jungle experience. These guys are like, okay, I want to trade. How do I set up this trade? How do I set up this wave? I need to hit my last hits, that type of thing. So they get distracted a lot and just miss a lot of things. So just do a better job communicating, because I'd say that aspect of your gameplay is almost entirely missing right now. This isn't a you're pinging a little bit too little situation. This is like
just I'm not pinging at all.
Yeah, I would say a good level for a jungler is about 5 times more pings than you're putting out right now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Treat it as your job. That's your job as a jungler. Treat it with just as much importance as fixing your clear. It's not an optional thing. It is part of your job as a jungler.
Nope, that makes sense.
Also, when it comes to F keys, when it comes to camera control, look at it the same way. This is your. Oh, did you just get the Krugs bug? Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. This is like I just had the same thing happen to me.
Man, I
so what I thought happened was
in the bush, right?
Yeah.
That's why when it happens at the start of the game, I'm so fucking confused.
I was like, oh shit! Like I'm about to get fucking fiddle ulted. Like
yeah. It's so confusing. It's just like what? I think what happened was, your little Krug spawn was so unlucky, it blocked off the path, and these guys got unit collisioned.
So what I've noticed in yours is they're basically right on the tip of that turn.
Yeah, it always happens in that area, so I'm very...
Yeah, and they freak out, and they're like, we can't get to you that way. Yeah, so basically the same thing, right?
Yeah, I think it's the split. They freak out because of the unit collision, and they try to route around the wall is probably what's happening, because that's their only path to you. And then when you kill this one routes. I don't know, like, I don't think that explains everything, like this fucky behavior, but...
I'm out of here.
This I just don't understand. They like came for me, left, came for me, left. I was like, okay, that's fine. But yeah, that seems to be maybe what happened with yours, and then they eventually reset. Okay, but yeah, let's keep going. Kind of short on time, so I'll be a bit quicker with this.
Good.
I think we're kind of over time, but okay. I have space with them.
You're way over,
so it's okay.
So this is where things. This is probably where Yorick actually freaks out.
He has no mana.
No mana.
He probably just he's been patient. He probably just wanted this wave to crash. I'd say it's not necessarily an awful game. Just be careful, because Yorick is low and it's Wukong, right? It's Wukong. Fuck Wukong, especially with Ignite. He can just like one-shot people.
Yeah. So so I was routing to cut Wukong off.
Yeah.
And then he's like, fuck you, basically. Like, I'm done.
I can understand that you kind of really fucked in here. First off, I like, again, you're using your E too quickly. You're not giving yourself any leverage versus people with escapes. You had sweeper up there, right? So I would have popped E a bit, like, very late versus a Wu, because you can sweeper, see where he's actually going.
Yeah, because he's gonna W every time. Yeah.
And at the very least, you don't have to force this. If you get his flash, that's good. Like, that's enough, right? And then your cleans this up. Don't overcommit. A flash is fine here for this gank. But right, so mechanically that was misplayed. And then, like, look at the situation. You're going to cut him off, but look, your Yorick. You have to remember, like, this is a Wu with Ignite, with ult. Your Yorick has no mana, no flash.
Yeah.
So if you route around here,
he turns and kills him.
Right. I can genuinely understand.
Apparently.
Yeah, because like your Yorick was so patient. He waited for this wave to push in like a good boy, and he was like, nice. I get to eat 9 creeps, and then this happened.
Right.
So, yeah, like he shouldn't have AFK'd. It sucks, but you know.
I misplayed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you still got him. Should probably just leave
the wave. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you can push this in time, it's okay. But this wave's a bit too big, and the next wave is too close. So, and you're low HP, so you don't want to have like an extended push out. So it's better just to leave this, and it'll at least freeze for him. But yeah. Okay. I noticed there's no pings right now, and remember, there's only one side of the map. Even if you don't know where Fiddle is right now, there's only one side of the map in danger. There's nothing happening up here. Everyone else is in this area, right? So at least some question mark pings over here. Okay, how much gold do you have? 850. Okay. A little bit weird. Oh no, that's their ping, sorry. Your team's Smurf. Maybe they get Dragon as well. Should you have been there?
Probably.
Okay, yeah. I
100% should be there at this point.
Well, you're very.
I'll tell you, once I clear, yeah.
So it's understandable. So your priority should potentially be either WQ Smite, heal off of this, and run right over. But this is actually a bit low, and he flashed out, so this is kind of understandable. The other option is WQ Smite this and maybe check his topside jungle, potentially, or just look for Scuttle in to reset because you're kind of low. But yeah. I can also kind of assume you didn't actually see what happened here because you didn't click over properly.
Right.
So you're routing.
Did they reset that dragon? I think they did.
I think they blasted that one. The Eon Raptors was weird. Should have saved the first spot.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Let me get that Callista Smite.
Okay. Probably doable with your second smite. Should be 2-to-1 fighting here, not standing here, especially because he might come up this way. You want to pull it here so you can't see it.
Okay.
You'll still be able to see on the mini map until it's taken, but a lot of junglers don't realize that, so they'll just like see it's not here and leave. But you were actually just taking it here the whole time, because that's still in patience range. Just hide behind a wall. Okay, I really dislike this. Because number one, you have an appropriate back timer to reset for Bami's cloth armor, or Bami's plus cloak is not bad here as well. Your ult is up, and you're kind of... Sorry, one sec. Fuck, I like gotta sneeze, but I can't sneeze. That awful.
The worst feeling.
But like, why is the question? Why?
This was very clearly autopilot. All my camps are up.
Right. You see their camps. You're kind of near, so you're like, cool. Farm efficiency. Bam, 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 bam. But think about what this commits you to. Either it means you're going into Krugs, into red. Okay, this is like okay if you want to hang around here for a while because you feel like something might happen top or something might open up top. Let's say this wave is pushing in. It'll take 20-30 seconds to crash, and you think there might be a chance to come gank Wukong, and you don't want to waste time, right? So you can take this in the meantime. Then that's okay, because it's a reactive response to like actually gathering information and doing something with it. But if this is defaulting over, think about what this sets you up for. You Krugs into red, maybe you back after red because you're like, oh shit, I have a lot of gold. And I don't want to be ganking with a lot of gold, right? So you're backing with red, coming back out. You wasted like 2/3 of red's duration. Obviously not great, right?
Right.
You're also now very offset with Fiddle's tempo. And you're offset with your bot lane tempo. Because your bot lane...
or I full clear into a bot gank with no items. And a lot of gold behind.
Right, so essentially in terms of your power level, you're basically taking yourself off the map if you full clear for like the next minute plus, right?
Right.
Not fully taking yourself off the map. You're not weak per se at a CDR spike because Bami's isn't that huge, but you do want to be thinking about it in this sense, right? Especially if this is like, you know, you can just apply the thinking to similar scenarios where it's like different items, but you know, the same type of situation where if you're committing to the clear right here when you could have had a proper back, you could have, you know, been in like a more ready state if something opens up on the map than you are now, because you have no items. Also keep in mind, whenever you do a single side clear, like if you Krugs into red here and back, you have to go bot because there's nothing top, right? If you like take this side, that funnels you. Whereas in this position, if you back here, you can actually go to either side. Your pathing is totally dynamic, and you can change it based on whatever the map state is to suit your needs. Okay, Fiddle shows up right here. It's important. Means you're now roughly aligned top to bot, which is not bad. Okay, it's here.
The ruins of these isles rise to smite.
don't remember what happens here.
He should have backed out. He for sure should have backed out. Should ping him. But you should also probably be kiting this towards him rather than away from him, given this situation.
Right.
Right, like your response is there pretty late. Maybe 3 or 4 seconds late, that makes all the difference. Assuming does he live? Even if he... Okay, see the thing here is like, if he takes it back here, even if he lives, they push this wave in, he loses the creeps, and then the next wave crashes while this one's still on tower, which means this wave will be delayed in coming back out, which means it'll crash here. Like the successive wave will crash here, right?
Right.
Does that make sense to you, or does that a little?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yep.
Okay, which means it's gonna slow push this way, and
Yep.
he's flashless. Like his lane's pretty fucked at this moment. Granted, that's his fault for walking out to here when Fiddle was right here. There was no reason for that, but he's probably thinking about this more in terms of why was Hecarim still on red,
right,
when Fiddle was clearly coming at me.
An unholy mark upon me.
Okay. Quite a bit of gold. Right, so you kind of committed to the full clear.
Right.
So this is the point. I want to know, I think the entire time you had your ult up, so this was the timer where you wanted to sync up your buys with your power spec, right? You want to be strong, have your items because you have ult up, it's time for you to make a play, right? So you want the items to do so. Now you're at like 2.1k gold. This is the exact like expected scenario where you committed to the full clear, and then now you're stuck in the situation where you're like, okay, is it time for me to back to get items because I want to make a play, right? And I have my ult up, but I have double buffs and I have ult. I don't want to back right now because I'm going to waste out my double buffs. Like it's an awkward timer, right? And it could have been prevented. 10:37. When did this all begin? Like when could you have backed? I'd say right after the scuttle was a good time, or right after the blue take. So 8:37, 8:35, a little bit before that. This was a good back timer. So effectively, you've actually taken yourself off the map for 2 minutes with your ult up. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, for sure.
Not 100% take yourself. You are healthy. Like it's not super bad. Like Bambi's isn't a huge spike, but again, I want you to just apply the thinking to a potentially more punishing situation because it's the line of thought, the train of thought that matters rather than the specific scenario. Because anything that's a problem is a problem because it comes up consistently, right? So there's going to be some situations where this is less punishing, some where this is more punishing. So it's the line of thinking that's important. So if this was 2k gold and you did the same thing, which you did in some of the prior games, so this is a consistent problem from the looks of it. Just be aware that just because the camps are up doesn't mean you need to default to them. You have an appropriate buy. It's totally okay to back here. If you want to be strong and sync up your item spike with your ult coming up, right? So you can kind of see you lost 2 entire minutes.
Yep.
Not like 2 minutes standing in base, but 2 minutes of potential strength and tempo in doing stuff on the map because you're weaker than you should be. And I know 2 minutes sounds bad, but I've seen much worse, even from much higher elo. I've seen like plat players that have taken themselves off the map effectively for this reason, from like 7 minutes to 11 minutes. And when I show them, they're like, "Oh fuck," because you don't really notice it because in game you're like, "Okay, farm efficiency."
You're doing stuff,
right. You're doing stuff. It seems good, but like, right, you need to think about the back points a little bit more. Think about syncing up with your team a little bit more. Because again, I do want to point out as well, you're exactly right. You got sucked into playing on the opposite side of the map from your strong lane again. You spent like the last 2 minutes up here.
Right.
And then your strong spike isn't synced up with anything happening bot. Okay. Oh, you stayed on the map. Right, like you got baited into staying on the map because you had all of this. So it's not even 10:30. It's like, when are you finally? Oh, you even stayed here. Okay. Okay, so here's when you're 11:30. So this ain't just 2 minutes. This is like, what was the timer? 7:30, 8:30?
8:37. So 3 minutes.
Right.
Basically.
So 3 minutes, you've essentially taken yourself off the map. That's why these kinds of games fall away, and you're like, I don't know what I could have done. I was farming efficiently, and there was nothing directly near me for me to go to. That's because if you're just going camp to camp, going directly to what's right next to you, of course it's coin flip, right? Sometimes there'll be stuff happening next to you, and you go, and it works out. Sometimes the opportunities won't be there. They'll be on the other side of the map, because you're not planning, you're not setting up in a way to arrive and be proximal to where you want to be at the right times. So of course it's going to be 50-50. It's complete luck whether the opportunities are near you or not near you.
Shut down.
Let me check this reset.
So it's probably like I'm a little bit higher than 50% win rate because I farm better than others, so my 50-50 is more like 60-40.
Something I also want to point out here is, because of the clear that you chose to do a clear into back. What that means is there's nowhere for you to go except top, right? You've been funneled into top unless you want to come back down here and accept that if the play doesn't go right, you lose everything because there's no camps, right? Also the fact that, so basically like your respawns are going to be like boom, 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 boom. So if there's something really good bot, yeah, you still go, and maybe things will be respawned by the time the play is done. But the plus minus on the play, right? The risk reward is a bit off because there's always a chance there's no play by the time you arrive here. So you ideally want something to do, right? Because you cleared into back, your respawns are going to be up here, so it's damaging to run down here.
Right.
Which is bad because this is the lane that you want to play around right now. You kind of want to play around the bot side. So alternatively, if you backed first, then you can make your pick. You can come up here, clear this. When you're around here, something happens bot, you can go to it, and you have these camps up. Or you can full clear. Something happens here, you go to it, and that's fine. And then you take it back and come back to your top side, right?
Right.
You're proximal at the relevant timers. Right now, the way you're setting up your proximity based on your back timer, by backing after the clear instead of before the clear, is you're kind of stuck running back out here. So you've effectively... I know this is tough to think about. It's really conceptual, and in-game, I'm talking about it in the position of like, wow, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. This is hard. This is really hard. Everyone gets this wrong. I get this wrong. Even the best players get this wrong. Because this is hard to think about in game, but that's not an excuse nonetheless, right? Because you can kind of see the effect where you're being funneled into the sides of the map consistently in both games where you actually don't want to be, because you're pathing kind of based just on what's next to me rather than kind of planning it out in any way.
Right.
Sorry, let me check if that guy responded because his lesson is soon. Oh God, he hasn't. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, that other guy has his session soon. He hasn't even added me back in Discord. Okay, so we're way over, so I'll cut this off here. I think you can tell at this point that most of the mistakes are drawing off the same fundamental basis, right?
Yep.
There's going to be more. I wish we had more time, but like we know the big things. So what I want to leave off with is please, for your own sake, don't look at this as, okay, I've had these mistakes pointed out to me, I will keep these in mind when I play. Don't do that. Don't be that player. Look at this as like, you had some peas poured into your bowl, you need to eat the peas, not leave them there, right? Pouring the peas into the bowl doesn't do anything, you gotta eat them. A lot of players around your rank, especially ones who ask for coaching, will keep asking for VOD reviews, keep asking for this, like, what are my mistakes, what am I doing wrong here? They'll keep throwing more peas into the bowl and they never eat them. So the improvement doesn't happen. So what you need to do I don't know your personality. I don't know how you approach the game. So I just want to get this out of the way because I've been helping people a long time. This is like the biggest problem coming out of VOD reviews. They'll just like hop right into a ranked game and they're like, okay, I'll apply these things. I'm gonna do better. I'm so hyped up, and then they don't actually set up any kind of plan to fix or track their progress on fixing those mistakes. Because these are not easy things to fix. These are hard things to fix. Like when it comes to clearing, it's pretty obvious, right? You go to practice tool, you work on it until it's fixed. And you can check relative to the spreadsheet to see where your timer's at. And that's pretty straightforward, right? So easy, pretty easy plan, relatively straightforward execution and way of tracking your progress. It gets murkier and murkier with things like pinging, F keys, back timers. It's much harder to track your progress, and that's why if you just treat this as, okay, I will keep this in mind, it's not going to happen. The reason it hasn't happened so far, the reason it's like this is because it's hard. That's why you're making these mistakes in the first place. It's hard. It's really hard to think about these things. So what I want you to do, what I really love you to do is come out of this, make like a little notepad or document for yourself, highlight the big 3 or 4 things. So for example, maybe it's fixing your clear a little bit, maybe it's really upping your pings, maybe it's your camera control, learning to F key more efficiently and a lot more actively, like 5-10 times more than you already are. Maybe it's noticing your back timers. Note those things down and write out a plan for yourself on how you're actually going to approach fixing these things and how you're going to track that progress. If you don't know how, you can discuss that with me, but come up with something, right? Something's always better than nothing. It gets you thinking about how to fix things, not just fix things, right? Because it's not the mistake that's important, it's the act of fixing it that's important. So for example, something I recommend for F keys is custom games, 1v9 versus intermediate bots. If it's boring, you can bring a friend, maybe you can practice last hitting, but 10-minute intervals with 9 intermediate bots just clearing. So number 1, you're practicing your clearing, and put heavy emphasis on F keying, knowing exactly the lanes, being excessive with it, being extreme with it, knowing exactly what the lane state is in every lane at all times during your clear. Every single lane, knowing what's going on, because it's a bot game, it's a custom game, it's no risk, right? You don't have other things going on, because you want to look at this as like, if you can't dribble without looking at your feet in a drill, you can't do it in game. It's even harder in game, right? So push yourself. Yeah. That's one type of drill I would recommend. Really pushing your F keys in a custom game where that's expressly what you're focusing on. You can even do mock pings. You can mock ping what your path is. You can mock ping your gank. You can mock ping back timers if ever, because there's no opponent jungler, but you can like look at the lanes and go like, if there's a jungler, this lane is safe. This lane is safe. This lane's pushing up. Ping around him, right? That same line of thought where there's only one place the enemy jungler has the potential of making an impact, then you ping. So you practice clearing while F keying, while pinging. You can also practice timers. If you see flashes, if you see TPs, you type the timer out. If you want to get better at tracking your camps, like the 410 thing, if you're ever starting a linear clear from one side to the other, that means everything's coming up in rotation right after it. So you time the first camp. If you take Gromp at 8 minutes and you take everything else after it, you type 10G, because you know exactly Gromp comes up at 10 minutes and everything comes up after that. So you only need to time the first one. If you ever go into the enemy jungle and counter jungle and you take his raptors at 630, you type 830 ERA. For E for enemy, RA for raptors. RA, R, K, W, B, G, right? And then an E for whatever. So you can practice taking timers while playing, because these are all strictly mechanical, these are all strictly micro, and they need to be worked on exactly like if you're practicing Lee Sin insects. These are not macro things. These are mechanical things. What you do with the information you get from F keying and from doing these things, that's decision making, that's macro. But the act of doing it is micro, that's mechanics, and to fix it, you need to look at it in that way and be critical of yourself in that way. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it all makes sense. Okay, for sure.
Okay, we're way over, sadly. So like, if you have any further questions, you can like just if it's small things, you can ask me, or if you feel like you've made progress, hit a wall, you can book another session, whatever. But yeah, that's heavily what I would recommend. Set up an actual plan.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff to work on, so.
Okay,
makes sense.
Fantastic. That's it for me. Do you have any like questions in closing? Anything?
No, I think I got a lot to digest.
Okay.
So I'll do that, and then we'll see how we go in the next couple weeks, and I may book a session if I need to.
Yeah, totally up to you. Totally
whatever.
up to you. Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Yep. Have a great day.
Hey, you too.
Let me